Hello and welcome to my August TBR jar slash bowl in this instance. If you've never seen any of my TBR jar videos before, here's how things are gonna go down. I have a jar. It's a bowl. I have a bowl, and in it I have a bunch of different prompts. I will then choose books based off of those prompts. Halfway through, we'll have a little journal intermission, and then we'll go back and draw a few more books and just talk through my TBR. I don't know how many I want to do this month. I think I'm gonna see where the TBR jar kind of takes me with the books that I select, and then we'll base it off of how many really large books that I have on my TBR. That way I don't end up with like 8 super chunky novels and there's no way for me to complete it. So without further ado, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started by drawing the very first prompt, which I think, did I drop one? No, we're good. This is the one. This is the one we are going to start off with. Book you've been saving for a rainy day, which is really appropriate because it is summer in Florida, which means it rains every single day. I don't know if there's any books necessarily I've been saving for a rainy day. However, let me peruse my shelves and see what I can come up with. I really want to prioritize actually adding my summer TBR books to my monthly TBRs because last month I did not do that. And you know, summer is rapidly coming to an end. I know, not really, but also kind of, guys, okay? I feel like end of August really marks the end of summer for me, even though I know obviously fall doesn't start till the end of September, but in my brain, August is like the end of the summer vibes before we slowly transition into fall. All that being said, I decided to pick up Brigands and Bread Knives by Travis Baldree. This is book 3 in his cozy fantasy series, and I thought that this would be perfect to pick up on a rainy day, want to really just sit and wrap myself up in some blankets and to dive into. In this novel, we are following Fern, who we actually get to meet in Legends and Lattes. In the first novel, Fern is helping Viv open her dream coffee shop. She is going off on a little bit of an adventure. I love an adventure novel. My favorite series being Ranger's Apprentice, which is basically nothing but adventuring. I recently read The Lord of the Rings, which is the peak adventure fantasy novel, and I'm ready for a cozy adventure. She sets off with, it says, a legendary warrior, an outlaw goblin with a fondness for silverware, and an absolutely thumping hangover. I cannot wait to see Fern's adventure and to kind of see what she gets up to. It's a, of course, low stakes, very, very cozy vibe. At least that is what's been promised to me. As many of you probably know, Travis Baldree really was the key of like kicking off the cozy fantasy genre. I'm not saying he created it necessarily, but since Legends and Lattes, there's been a lot more novels leaning into that like cozy fantasy vibe. And I actually recently read The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst, and that also has very like cozy, warm vibes. And I cannot wait to see how that sort of translates into an adventure novel, because most cozy books, I would say, they're in one area, right? Because it's supposed to be cozy, it's supposed to be low stakes. There's not like big looming threats upon them. So I'm really keen to see what I think about it. I did read the first 2. It's been a while though. I didn't realize how long it's been since I've read the first one. But regardless, I am really keen to dive into Travis Baldree's writing, and I will certainly be keeping this for a rainy day. Yes, okay, there's my first one. Let's go ahead and move swiftly along to the second prompt. I'm already pleased with how my reading is shaping up. I hope for a little bit more of an exciting, specific prompt. I feel like for a rainy day could be, you know, all of my books on my TBR, so let's see. A book by an author whose last name starts with, what does this say? Starts with M or arrow. I'm assuming it means starts with an M or later into the alphabet. I don't know whose handwriting this is, but it's atrocious, quite frankly. But I'm gonna go ahead and assume this is basically the last name starts with M or further to Z in the alphabet. Continuing on the vibes, I guess, of like the cozy genre, I decided to pick up Lost in Space by Rebecca Thorne. So T obviously does come after M, at least the last time I checked it did. And I'm also really trying to prioritize, as you can kind of tell, library books, because I just know that some of these books are fairly popular and they're going to be due back at the library soon, so another reason to prioritize them on my TBR. In this novel, we have Torian, who finally buys the starship of her dreams, and she knows she kind of has her work cut out for her, and there's a lot of repairs and such that needs to happen to the starship. Yet when she starts working on it, she discovers that the starship is inhabited by sentient moss, who has major abandonment issues because the aliens who built the spaceship and then left the moss in there then dipped, you know, and left this moss alone for a long time. And I think it's kind of their friendship. I think there's got to be some sort of romance, because on the bottom it says human romance is ridiculous. I've never read anything by Rebecca Thorne before. This is a newer release as well. And I also just really want to show off this gorgeous art. I love the cover of this novel, and I cannot wait to dive into a cozy sci-fi. That genre is not one I've really touched, and I'm keen to see how they go about bringing the coziness to a sci-fi novel. So there is my second selection for August. So far, I'm really content with the direction my TBR is going. I know we're 2 books in, but they're not necessarily super long books, so that bodes well for maybe choosing a few more than I typically would. So we're just gonna go ahead and grab straight off the top, not even mixing up the pot. Book by author with your initials. Okay, we're going to look for someone with my initials, whether that be first, middle, or first and last. We will see. I feel like I need the wide array because I don't know if I have many authors that I share initials with. So I'm gonna peruse my shelves and then I'll come back when I hopefully find one. I had to do a little bit of tweaking to this prompt because the only person on my entire bookshelf that shared my initials was Cassie Clare. Now, I don't really feel the urge to pick up any Cassie Clare books this month, so I decided instead of finding someone with C and C, what if I just did someone who also had like the double letter? So MM, NN, CC, that sort of thing. Therefore, I decided to pick up a book by Naomi Novik called Uprooted. I've actually never read anything by her before, but I know she does a lot of like fairy tale leaning novels. In this novel, we are following Agnieszka, and she lives on the edge of this kind of dark woods, and every 10 years, a wizard comes to town and basically demands a servant to come serve him for, I guess, the rest of their life. And Agnieszka is really nervous because she thinks that Cassia, her best friend, is going to be chosen, and she wants to do everything in her power to protect her. But then it says, when the dragon comes, it's not Cassia he will choose. The dragon being the dark wizard, not necessarily an actual dragon, although I don't know if there are dragons in this novel. There's like a little doodle, but it looks more like a hydra. I don't even know what that looks like. They're like dragons with little hook noses. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Anyways, I'm really keen to get into Naomi Novik's writing. I've heard really good things about it, and the only other author that I feel like is comparable with like the whole fairy tale retellings is T. Kingfisher, and I didn't love T. Kingfisher's like fairy tale rewritings, so I'm curious to see if it was like a T. Kingfisher problem or if it was a me problem not really liking the like grim fairy tale retellings. So I think this will be the perfect book to pick up. A little less cozy perhaps than the other two, but regardless, one I'm really, really eager to pick up. I'm feeling 8 as the number of books I want to put on my TBR. A little ambitious, but maybe a little more tame than July, because July I had my entire TBR plus my Summerween TBR, so I had so many books and it was a little overwhelming if we're being honest. So 8 sounds like a good number. Therefore, I'm going to go ahead, pick one more prompt, and then we will take a nice brief intermission to do some journaling, and then I'll come back and pick the remaining 4 books. But before the journaling, of course, I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm gonna really mix this up. I'm not thrilled with the prompts that I've picked out this month. I feel like they've been a lot less exciting than previous months, but you know what? Not every month is gonna be a banger, you know? Okay, this one kind of stuck to my finger, so we're gonna do this one and hope that it's good. Book you think will be 5 stars. Okay, kind of vague. Obviously, I hope every single book that I pick up will be a 5-star, but let me find one that I'm like, this is gonna be a new favorite, or at least I hope it's going to be a new favorite. I decided to pick a book in a series, one that everyone tells me is gonna be my favorite in the series, and I've come really close to having a 5-star in the Game of Thrones series, but it hasn't quite happened yet. However, everyone has touted that book 3 is the peak of George R.R. Martin and the Song of Ice and Fire series, so I thought, why not go ahead and put this on my TBR? And now maybe I'm regretting saying that I'm gonna put 8 books on my TBR, because I think this book alone might take me a minute to read. Regardless though, I'm so excited to continue on the series. This is a buddy read, and my friend Manu and I said, oh yeah, no, we'll definitely finish by the end of July. And July has come and it has gone, and I have not started this book. So maybe the new goal is by the end of August. I'm not making any promises promises, but it's definitely a priority on my TBR and one that I think might finally be the 5-star that I've been looking for in the Game of Thrones series. I cannot wait to see what all of my favorite characters have been up to. I cannot wait to see some deaths. Actually, I think I can wait to see some deaths, guys. I'm really nervous. I've really grown attached to so many of these characters, and I really hope none of my favorites bite the dust. But alas, I've been spoiled for one death, so I know one person for sure dies, and it's really sad, and I'm not ready, but I'm also so ready for the action and the backstabbing and just this amazing political fantasy. I love a political high fantasy, and I have been absolutely eating up A Song of Ice and Fire. Excited to finally dive into this one. Oh my gosh, hang on, let me see how many pages it is. All nearly 1,000 pages of A Storm of Swords. But for now, let's go ahead, do a little bit of journaling as a brief intermission because I know how much you guys love my journal pages. I don't have any ideas of how I want it to turn out, but fingers crossed it turns out good, and then I'll come back and draw the remaining 4 books. hope that you enjoyed the little bit of journaling that I did. Obviously, through the power of editing, I have not done it yet, but I hope it looks good because I still have to draw the remaining 4 books, which you might have already seen sneak peeks of, but through the power of editing, I don't know what they are. So we're about to find out together. All right, I really want a good prompt. I feel like these have kind of been you know? Okay. We're gonna do this one here. To be fair, a lot of times when I'm like drawing my prompts, one just like falls out and it's like, ooh, the chosen one. But, oh, I'm throwing this one on the floor. But that hasn't really happened so far. Book with an even number of pages. I kind of want a redraw. I've drawn this prompt twice now. This is number 3. So I think I'm going to do a little bit of cheating and put this one aside and draw again, okay? I've had the even pages, I've had the odd pages. I want something new, I want something fresh. This TBR video is not going how I want it to go, but I think that'll be my only redraw. Maybe I'll give myself like 1 redraw every month if things aren't really going my way. That's the new rule, okay? We're just making up stuff as we go. That's how it works. Book with a map in it. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I could not have asked for a better prompt because this actually beautifully segues me into talking about how I am a fantasy cartographer and I have 4 new maps coming out for you all on August 8th, which is very exciting. We'll have Lord of the Rings, we'll have Quicksilver, we'll have Kanto from Pokemon, as well as Yona of the Dawn, as well as new bookmark collections. I'm so excited for all of these, and I hope you guys are as well. I do have an email list if you want to sign up to be notified. I don't like spam your inbox or anything, but I remember I recently put this prompt in, not for this beautiful segue per se, but just because it came to me as I was drawing one of my maps that I was like, what a perfect prompt. So let's go ahead, start opening some books, and find a book with a map in it. This book was kind of an unexpected choice. When I first was perusing my shelves, I really thought that I'd have more books that I felt like reading that had maps in them, but because I'm in the middle of so many fantasy series, I wasn't really sure what direction I wanted to go. However, this is actually going to be a reread for me, and that is Malice by John Gwynne. I started this series a couple years ago now, and I remember literally zilch from either John Gwynne books that I read. I read, I think the first 2 or 1.5 of this series and then the first book in his other series as well, and I literally do not remember them in the slightest. I remember enjoying them, but again, details gone. However, having owned 3 out of the 4 books, I really want to give this series a proper go. I think I was reading this my first year of being a flight attendant, and doing that job and traveling and also reading while traveling was like really new for me, just because so much was on my mind with work that I was so stressed all the time and not properly like paying attention to the novels I was reading. But now that I am more of a seasoned flight attendant, shall we say, I'm used to the rigmarole and just the craziness that that job entails, and I'm definitely more able to just kind of go through the motions and then also remember books that I read. So that is the goal for this one, and it has a map in it, which is very exciting, and I knew that because I haven't drawn this map before, but I've carved it on a pot and gifted it to one of my friends this is one of their favorite series. So I'm really keen to get into Malice again, revisit it, and my audiobook finally came in. I think it's been on hold since nearly the beginning of the year. Actually, let me check that for you right now, just because I remember it was on hold literally for weeks, if not months, and I don't know why it took so long to finally come in, and now my Libby isn't loading, so now we just sit here. Although I can edit all this out, so you don't have to sit here, but I do. I've never ever had this problem with Libby, but it is completely refusing to load, and it literally is giving me troubleshooting options where it's like, uninstall the app, clear the cache. Like, what is happening? I'm connected to my internet, and even when I turn my internet off and use my data, it's still not loading. So unfortunately, you will have to be kept in suspense. I don't know how many weeks. That's so weird. See, look at this. I've never had this problem before. That is so strange. Maybe they're doing some sort of like app maintenance, so it's not working at the time. That's so strange. But stranger things have happened. Malice is on my TBR. I think we need to move on. I feel like I sat here for so long waiting for Libby to load, and then it never did. So let's go ahead and shuffle these up, and one fell out. Finally, this feels like, oh my god, wait, no, it's a twofer. It's a 2 for 1. Okay, left or right, you guys. I don't know which one to do. I haven't looked at either of them. How many prompts have I pulled? I've pulled 5. So this could be 6 and 7. I'm so sorry. But do I want, yeah, we'll do both prompts. We'll do both prompts, okay? A book with a great first sentence. Ooh, this is an exciting one to look through. And then when I find this one, I will open this prompt here. Guys, not it actually finally working. You've got to be kidding me. The second I went to turn off the camera, you guys, it loaded. Oh my gosh. But I placed the hold in April. And it is now August. So that's how many months it took for my hold to come in. Anyways, now, for real this time, let's go look for a killer opening line. Guys, I fear we've lost the art of the opening line, because tell me why I looked through probably 10 plus books. I could not find any that were like, yes, like this is good. I was about to pull out a Name of the Wind reread, okay? Because that's a killer opening line. However, I did settle and pick up Shadow of the Fox. Actually, I didn't settle. It is a banger opening line. Okay, this is by Julie Kagawa. And here's the opening line. Let me actually get to the opening line. All right, here we go. Chapter 1, beginnings and endings. It was raining the day Suki came to the Palace of the Sun, and it was raining the night that she died. Poor Suki. Can't wait to see what goes down then. It says, 1,000 years ago, the great Kami dragon was summoned to grant a single terrible wish. And the land of Iwagoto was plunged into an age of darkness and chaos. And many, many years have passed, and there's this magical scroll, and whoever holds the scroll can grant a new wish upon the world. We follow Yumiko and we follow Cage in their tentative alliance in finding the scroll. They each have separate motives for finding said scroll, but this is one that has been sat on my TBR for quite some time, if we're being honest, and one that I've come very, very close to unhauling. So, lucky for it, it had kind of a banger first line, especially compared to all the other novels I was picking up and looking at. None of them were really jumping off the page at me, but this one, it definitely has me intrigued, and one that, I say this a lot, but with the TBR jar, it really has me reaching for books that I wouldn't otherwise, because I was desperate, you guys. I was like, what books do I feel like reading? And then none of them were really striking my fancy. And I was like, okay, let me reach for some books that maybe I haven't really thought about in some time. And that led me to Shadow of the Fox. Really curious to see if this book was worth holding on to, but let's go ahead and grab that other prompt that I had pulled out. I set it off to the side here. It says a nonfiction book. So quite the exciting pull. Maybe not as exciting as a book with a killer first line, but let me go ahead and peruse the shelves. After way too much perusing, I have selected something that I'm still not thrilled about, and I want to pick it up, but will I pick it up? I don't know. I need some more nonfiction recs, you guys, because I've read a couple these past few months, but of course the 1 month that I pick it for a prompt, I cannot find anything for the life of me. But I decided to settle on Why We Sleep, Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams. This is probably not the best book for me to pick up, mostly because my sleep schedule is atrocious, especially as a flight attendant, and it just kind of comes with the territory of being a flight attendant, where you go to bed at like 2 in the morning and then you have to wake up at 6 a few days later, and it's just like constantly fluctuating, and sometimes you're not in the same time zone, and then you have jet lag, and it's just like a very brutal job to work if you are not able to be flexible with your sleep. And I know the ideal way to exist as a human being is to go to bed at the same time every day, to wake up at the same time, and to get your 8 hours of sleep, or 9 or 7, what have you. So maybe this isn't the best book to read while I'm in like the peak of summer travel hell. However, this is the one nonfiction book on my shelf that I had not read yet, so I decided to go ahead and plop it on there, and who knows, maybe I will reach for it. That is kind of the goal with these TBR videos, is I create a TBR, have them set next to my bed. That way, when I'm sitting around or thinking about a book to bring on my travels, I have a smaller selection of books to choose from versus like my entire shelf. So that's kind of my idea with the TBRs, not necessarily to get to every single one of them, but to bring some of them to like the forefront of my shelves. And yeah, I've had this one for a while now. I've just never really thought to pick it up. So maybe this is the month, maybe it's not, but regardless, it has become more of a priority, shall we say. Now that is 7. And I want to end on a good prompt. This TBR jar this month is just not doing it for me, which is tragic because I really do look forward to reaching for my TBR jar and filming these videos every single month. Not that I'm not happy with the selection of books that I've ended up curating. However, I feel like the prompts just haven't really been going my way, and I've really struggled to find books to fit the prompts. But you know what? 1 month out of the 3 or 4 that I've done it, you know, it's fine, it's fine. Okay, 1 did fall, so we're taking that as a sign that this is going to be the 8th and final book, the cherry on top, the best prompt so far in this video, a manga. perfect. This was an easy peasy pick for me because it was definitely a priority to pick up, and that is Gashi Volume 3. I recently filmed a book haul where I talked about all the books that I bought so far and how I wanted to just binge buy the rest of the series, but then held off. But then I ended up buying volumes 3 through 6. So I didn't completely hold off, but to justify the purchase, I do want to go ahead and continue on the series. This has been a recent favorite manga of mine. It has a really dark and gritty art style that I'm just utterly obsessed with, and I'm really excited to finish meeting all of the characters and just get to see where the plot progresses. We're following Rudo, and he was accused of murder, and in the society, they basically shove murderers or would-be murderers into this giant trash pit to die. But Rudo survives the fall and discovers there's an entire society down below in the trash pit. And in the society, there is a group called the Cleaners who defeat these trash monsters that spring up. So in order to get help getting back to the surface, Rudo decides to join the Cleaners and help with their cause. And there's just so much action and excitement. And like I said, the character designs are some of the most unique character designs ever, and I love all of them. I've actually made some fan art for some of the weapons, and I plan to draw, actually, this guy right here, Engine, his weapon as well. In this universe, if you care about an object enough, it becomes embedded with like magic and becomes really, really powerful, and it's called a vital instrument. And each character typically has one vital instrument. So in this case, Engine, his umbrella. This guy, Zonka, it's his staff. And then we have Rio, my favorite character, her pair of scissors. But Rudo is special, and he can make any object into a vital instrument, which makes him very, very powerful, but also very, very dangerous, especially to the enemies of the Cleaners. Like I said, I've been obsessed with this manga, one that I definitely recommend to give a shot, especially if you like action and unique art styles as well. Like I said, it does have like a darker and like grittier vibe to it, so if that's not your vibe and you like romance and like light and fluffy animes and mangas, maybe don't pick up Kaji, but I think giving the first volume a go is definitely worth it, as it pretty much lays the groundwork and throws you straight into the series and understanding the stakes and everything that's going down. So perfect end to the TBR jar, because my TBR was getting a little out of hand. I keep thinking 8 books is a reasonable number of books until I choose 8 books and then realize that's a lot of books. Here is the 8 books that I ended up picking up. Like I said, a little bit ridiculous, but it just gives me a narrower scope of books to reach for, and I'm really excited. A couple of library books, a couple of books off my summer TBR, a couple of books that I hadn't thought about in years, so I'm really hoping that I'm able to actually reach for them. And if you're curious to hear my thoughts about the ones that I do read, please do consider subscribing. I do post wrap-ups and reading vlogs and all sorts of bookish content, and I'd love for you to join me on my reading journey. Thank you guys so, so much for watching, and I do hope to see you in my next one. Toodles!